All right.
So what are we talking about today?
Well, we're going to talk about tradition. We just finished Thanksgiving. I don't know. Is Thanksgiving the kickoff to the holidays? I kind of feel like Halloween is.
Yeah, so I'm with you on Halloween, more so even now that I live in Florida because we run on Disney time here. It is
It's so true.
it's Halloween until October 31st, and then November 1st it becomes Christmas at all of the theme parks and all of
True.
Florida.
That's true.
Right.
And probably everywhere anymore. I mean, I remember when we were kids, between Halloween and Christmas, there was a gap.
Oh, and people are irate that feel it should still be that way. I mean, they're irate when they see a Christmas tree.
For December 1st?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Probably because of tradition, because they also remember this gap in my family when my older kids were little. Absolutely no one was to utter a Christmas song until Thanksgiving Day. That is when you can pull out Elf and the Grinch and all of those things, and you can put on the Christmas music not a moment before. And if anyone started humming, "It's beginning to look like Christmas" before Thanksgiving, they were instantly shut down.
Seems harsh.
Yeah,
For
well,
children.
and my kids are still very much adamant that we do not sing Christmas music until Thanksgiving Day. So I tried to pull out a little bit prematurely some Christmas music the week before Thanksgiving, and it
And
was instantly no,
no.
absolutely not.
Okay.
And I did this. I did this to them, but I live in Florida now, and it's like, well, Halloween's over. We can listen to Christmas music.
I get it. All right.
Hi, I'm Candace,
And I'm Elle.
and this is Weirdly Human.
Okay, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Weirdly Human, the show that talks about all those weird things that make us human. I'm Elle.
And I'm Candace.
We're going to talk about traditions. One of our listeners, Dan, thank you, Dan, gave us an idea about doing a tradition show, which we'd kind of talked about doing anyway. And when he mentioned this to me a few weeks ago, I thought, oh, yeah. And then we talked about it in our planning, I don't know, again, a few weeks ago. And it just seemed like, yeah, this is the time.
And it's very weirdly human. I mean, all cultures have traditions.
Absolutely. I don't think the deer in my backyard have any idea of, that.
Right. And
thing.
as we pointed out, that our show is not called Exclusively Human.
No.
Sometimes we talk about things that other animals share, but
True.
I'm not sure that traditions is one of them.
When I was doing a little bit of research about this, there are so many cool traditions. I mean, when we were planning, we talked about holiday traditions because, of course, it seems natural to talk about holiday
We are
traditions.
recording this in December. Holiday traditions are easy one to talk.
But there are so many different kinds of traditions.
Religious traditions.
I mean, even secular ones. I mean, like if I think about bridal showers or,
Mhm.
the guy's bachelor party, that's a tradition.
Absolutely.
Baby showers. There's tons of traditions around the first day of school or the last day of school.
My husband is in the military. There are many military traditions.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they do things this way, not because it makes sense or is cheaper or because it's tradition.
It's
Because
tradition.
we did it and you will also do it.
And so when I thought about, why do humans, why do we do it?
And are they important?
And are
Should
they
we do away
important?
with traditions?
No, they are very important. Traditions help us to feel connected to our families, to our communities, to our culture, which is huge. And that has been a thing for humans probably since we walked upright.
A lot of times foster children in the foster care system don't have traditions. And I feel like creates a feeling of
Exclusion.
Of non-connected. Or they had traditions in a previous household that are now not being experienced. And that makes people sad. I mean, I think that's why people get sad at the holidays when they're not with family. They're not experiencing these traditions. And it emphasizes a disconnect, which makes us humans sad.
Yeah. As you know, our youngest daughter is adopted, and we had to do a lot of adoptive education classes to qualify as adoptive parents. And I remember there was a class it may have been a specific class on just that and how important traditions were for adopted
Oh,
children.
wonderful.
I know it was amazing. It was wonderful. I feel like I learned so much about being a parent from those classes, even though I'd already made a kid. I already was a parent. All you have to do is have sex once and make a baby. But, when you adopt a child, you got to learn a bunch of stuff. You have to prove that you're worthy in lots of different ways. One of the classes that we took talked about how important it was to establish traditions, to integrate this new child into your traditions and to help them assimilate, for lack of a better word, especially because we were adopting internationally. So she was coming from a very different culture than what we have.
But like you just said, establishing those
Yes.
traditions
Yes.
helps to foster that feeling of I'm connected to this family and we do these things.
And it also is important, because she was adopted internationally, to honor some of her old cultural traditions. And that was fun. Some really fun new family traditions because of her old culture. And so that was kind of cool.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, I've done a lot of work with exchange students, and some of them do get very sad around the holidays because they have traditions and families that they are missing. But there is a lot of sharing our traditions, and they think some of the things that we do are fun, and we think some of the things that they tell us about are at first strange, but then fun. And we have also adopted some new traditions that we've learned from other exchange students. One of my favorite, our last exchange student was from the Netherlands, and she was telling us how Santa or Sinterklaas lives in Spain and comes to the Netherlands on his white horse on a boat, and then they walk around with this or Santa walks around with this white horse. And I'm like, what a strange way for Santa to travel. Why does he live in Spain? Why does he ride a white horse? This makes no sense. And, then this look on her face like, oh yes, living in the North Pole and having flying reindeer, that's totally logical. And I realized that, our traditions are just as silly as her traditions, and why not? It's fun. But okay, speaking of traditions, here's a very controversial topic that you may have to cut out. I don't know.
Gosh.
But in addition to Santa and Sinterklaas and the white horse, instead of elves, Santa has Zwart Piets, which translates to Black Pete. It's not just one guy, Black Pete. There are many Black Petes, sort of like elves, but there is a large population that thinks that this is very racist, and they look sort of like, slaves or our old caricatures. They have tried to change it and modernize it, and now they're not even black. They're just covered in ash and soot from going down chimneys. But the people who grew up with Zwart Piet, walks around handing out candy to the children, they love Zwart Piet, and they never thought of him as a racist emblem. They thought of him as someone who gave them candy. And so there's all this nostalgia. And now that they're adults, it is tradition that Zwart Piet should visit. And of course, people of color, people from outside the tradition are going, hey guys, you're pretty progressive, and
Right.
This looks kind of racist.
This looks kind of racist.
And maybe stop doing that. But not surprisingly, there's all this childhood nostalgia, and they dig in.
Yeah.
They dig in and say it is not racist at all. It's a fun thing. And why are you trying to ruin Christmas? I, first of all, have no right to speak on this, not being Dutch, but I just know that there is a lot of heat about this particular tradition. And I've also learned that when it is not my culture and not my place, to just keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, I think that's
so.
a good idea.
You guys in the Netherlands can work that out amongst yourselves. I understand why they think, oh, this had nothing to do with slavery. It's just a fun thing. But I can also see the other side where it is offensive. So I think that if this tradition changed, but we maintained the boat and the white horse and the pepper nuts and all of the fun stuff about Christmas, if we did away with Zwart Piet, I don't think we're really going to damage a culture. That's my opinion. Okay.
All right. Well, that was a lot. And maybe this is a great place to take a little break.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Tradition!
Hey, weirdos. Did you know we've got a website? It's weirdlyhumanpodcast.com. We've got videos. We've got links to the things that we talk about in the episodes.
They just want our super cool t-shirts. They can get those.
And, people, we're doing this for free. There's a little button that you could donate. If you're feeling in the holiday giving mood, or just in a giving mood, give us a couple of bucks, and it would mean so much to us. All right. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Okay, now we're back, and I had a minute to think about all that you just said. As you know, I'm learning German, so I'm very interested in other traditions, specifically that are going on in Germany. And I did a little digging around, and the whole idea of Zwarte Piet is not unique to the Netherlands.
Oh.
In Germany, they have Schwarze Peter, which is also Black Peter, who is a small man in dark clothes who has a whip and travels along with Saint Nicholas. What I remember from reading was Schwarze Peter was not a huge part of their tradition. The bigger part,
Maybe that one's less hard to let go of then because it was a smaller part of their
maybe
tradition?
the bigger part though is they have the Christkind. The Christkind is it translates to Christ child, but in Germany she's a girl. She is a curly blonde-headed girl. They actually choose a young girl to be the Christkind, and she will be dressed all in white and gold and will often have angel-like wings. It doesn't have anything to do with the religious part of their celebration. But
So Christians in Germany think Jesus was male.
yes,
But
they
for
think
some reason, the Christ child is female.
is female. Yes, and she always is, and she has like 150 different official duties.
This is confusing, and I need to look into this further.
It was fascinating. But she's the one that will come and open the Christmas markets. As you know, the Christmas markets are a big thing in Germany. Though with COVID, I guess.
So perhaps Jesus is a trans male.
Oh no, don't go there. Oh God. Anyway, I thought it was very interesting that the Christkind is a sweet little girl. I thought it was interesting too when I looked that they also have, and many different cultures will have a alter ego to the Santa Claus. So in Germany they have the Krampus, which is the horned like devil character that's dressed in rags. And
have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I don't think it's German, but they took that idea and ran with it. So instead of coal for bad children,
he gives you sticks.
He beats you with sticks, and then doesn't he put you in a bag and take you to his lair or hell or something?
Not always. There are different levels
of
badness of misbehavior. There are different levels of misbehavior.
So as an American kid, I was just afraid of not getting what I wanted, but German kids actually might be beaten and carted off away from their families.
Abducted. Beaten and abducted.
Yes, beaten and abducted.
Yeah. Oh, golly. I also thought it was interesting that in Iceland, they have the 13 Yule Lads. They are a hybrid Santa troll.
Oh, I love it.
I know. And that makes me think of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, except there are 13 of them.
Okay.
And they are small, and each troll has a separate mischievous personality. They will kind of do mischievous things, which reminds me of our St. Nicholas, our St. Patty's Day stuff and the leprechaun business.
But they also leave presents,
But they also leave presents. So
you tolerate the mischievousness.
You tolerate their bad behavior because they're going to give you stuff. In Iceland, you leave the shoes out just like in the Netherlands. And if you've been good, you'll get a gift in your shoes every day for 13 days up until Christmas. If you haven't been good, you're going to get rotten potatoes in your shoes. Or there's the myth that the troll's mother, Gryla, will boil you.
Oh, see, that's worse.
Yeah, totally.
That's much worse.
You will be killed. So there, yeah.
Okay.
Bad.
But I would think that it would need to be a pretty severe infraction.
I would hope.
Boiling.
For boiling.
But then again, as a child, I often imagined infractions as being, much larger
than they really were.
So I could also see how this is terrifying.
Yes. I think it's very interesting that back in the day, parenting came down to threats of violence or abduction or murder.
Right. Yes.
to get good behavior, that's what we had to resort to.
Yes.
Kind of crazy.
Go to bed or you might be boiled. It's not going to be me, obviously. No. It's going to be Santa or
the Yule Lads mom.
The Yule Lads mom, sorry.
Great. Oh, and in Scandinavia, which incorporates Sweden, Norway, Finland area, Santa rides a goat. He's on the Yule goat instead of the sleigh. And no reindeer, it's a goat. I just thought that was really interesting.
Okay. Well, a sponsor that we don't have
could be the Yule goat.
No, I don't. He doesn't have any money. No, Hydro. They're advertising everywhere anyway right now. It's the Peloton equivalent of a rowing machine. And I noticed in their Christmas ads, they've got a fit Santa. And, our tradition is that Santa is overweight. And you know what? This fit Santa looked pretty, he looked pretty fit and also a lot more capable of getting down chimneys and handing out presents to all of the kids all night. And maybe Santa doesn't need to be fat. I'm okay with a fit Santa. It was a nice looking Santa. Good job, Hydro.
Okay, well,
And
there's a
fit
sponsor.
Santa might be bringing me a Hydro.
Ooh, nice. And then you can be fit Santa for next year.
Exactly. Fit Mrs. Claus.
So whenever I was digging around in the different traditions of different countries, there's so many common threads.
Wait, are we going to be able to make this episode about traditions? Because we could talk about specifically December holiday Christmas traditions.
I know.
For hours.
You're right. So tell me a tradition that you have in your house.
Well, okay. I am going through an empty nest situation where my older kids have gone off and started lives in other states. And then my family of origin is in another state. And we're all thousands of miles away from each other. I have a relatively new husband. We've been married almost 3 years. We are actually in this stage where our old traditions have fallen away and we're trying to create new traditions as a family. And it can be fun. It can also be sad and frustrating and weird. I love the tradition that you and I have started where we get our families together and go tour the lights in St. Augustine. I could see that becoming like a hard and firm tradition. And even if one of us is traveling one year, okay, instead of doing it on Christmas Eve, maybe we do it on the 20th. That would be okay. I don't think it necessarily has to be on that day.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I agree. I want that to be a new tradition with us.
It's not about the lights in St. Augustine because I'm at an age where I've seen a lot of holiday lights. And though they're lovely, seeing the lights is not what's important to me. It's the thing that we do together that signals something. It signals a connectedness. It signals, I feel grounded. We've finished the year and we're doing this together.
Yeah.
It's hard to put your finger on what it is that makes that so special.
I know.
Another tradition that we have is on Christmas morning, as we're opening presents, we have, I don't even know the name of it. But anyway, it's a package of cream cheese, a package of breakfast sausage. You cook the sausage, you mix it with the package of cream cheese. You take this filling and you put it in croissants.
Oh.
The Pillsbury kind that you break open the can and you roll them out and you roll up the croissant and then you bake them. And so it's a croissant filled with sausage and cream cheese. And my kids absolutely love this. And it's funny, though, because all of us have gone through periods of dietary restrictions.
I was going to say, you're gluten-free.
I'm gluten-free, makes it difficult. And I have been for probably 7 years. Before that, I was vegan. Most of my nuclear family was vegan. So that was a challenge. Now my oldest son is vegan. I'm gluten-free. And so having a mix of these things has been difficult. So the vegan was actually pretty easy.
Yeah, I was going to say the Beyond Meat has a great, oh my gosh, those are delicious.
So, and though we didn't eat like this all the time as vegans, again, it was Christmas morning. We go to the store, we get the vegan croissants, the vegan cream cheese, and the vegan sausage, which nowadays are all readily available. Wham, bam, make a vegan version.
A vegan virgin?
Those exist, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yes.
However, being gluten-free, I usually just have a spoonful of the sausage cream cheese mixture, and it's kind of sad because they don't make a gluten-free croissant.
I'm with you. They don't make a gluten-free croissant. I actually tried to make a gluten-free croissant from a recipe that I found somewhere. It was terrible. It was impossible. It just did not work at all. You gave me that amazing recipe for the butternut squash sausage stuffing.
Ooh, how'd that turn out?
Oh my God. That was delicious. Delicious. That is going to be a new tradition for my family because it was so good. You
don't miss the bread.
No, not at all.
It was so good. And I'm like, what? We don't have to do any of the other sides. This is all of them.
This is all of them. And like you said, Thanksgiving in a pan.
It's Thanksgiving in a pan.
And it was so good.
You don't miss the turkey.
No.
Speaking of traditions, so little things, and people love to argue about the right way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize that not all people put sausage in stuffing, like for Thanksgiving. We always had a sausagey stuffing. So to me, this bread-free sausage stuffing was delish, and I didn't miss the bread at all. So my new husband's family thought it was strange that we put sausage in our stuffing.
Well, I think it's great that you mentioned that because when I was growing up, my mother would do, I mean, I was not gluten-free then. We were not gluten-free at all. She would do half breadcrumbs or, bread pieces and then half cornbread. Like she would make a cornbread and then crumble that up in there. There was no sausage, though. Gosh, it should have because delicious. But was when I was growing up, I thought there should be cornbread in the stuffing.
Oh.
And then when I married my husband, he was like, cornbread in the stuffing? Are you crazy? What are you doing?
I'm on his side on this. I know that cornbread stuffing is a thing,
Yeah.
but it's obviously inferior. And why would you do that?
Well, since we've been gluten-free for so long, it's been
We don't do
forever.
either.
We don't
Yeah.
even do it anymore.
Right.
But I get it. And, when you create a new family, you kind of got to make up some of your own traditions. You got to take a
Yes.
little bit from his, a little bit from yours, and figure out where are we going to go with this.
Right. And some of them become just yours. This is
Exactly.
just our family. And then sometimes you're surprised when other people don't do it the way you do.
I know. Which just seems like totally inferior, like you just said.
Right. Yeah.
So one of the traditions that we do, I started when my children were very little, obviously, and it's the advent calendar. So we have an advent calendar and it's a house. Like looks like a little dollhouse. Doors are not very big and they're not very deep. When my children were tiny, it was very easy to put a little piece of candy or a little trinket into the door. I call it the PPC, pink plastic crap.
Oh.
It was easy to find pink plastic crap to go into the door to amuse.
A ring.
A ring.
Like, oh, okay.
Yes. A little, costume.
Erasers.
Oh, so many different choices to go into the doors. Now that my children are teenagers, it's harder. They require more expensive things and they're not so into the PPC, but they are in love with, they call it the Christmas house. I keep asking every year, do I need to do the Christmas house? They lose their
yes.
minds. If I even suggest that we're not doing the Christmas house, they think that I have said we're canceling Christmas.
Yes. If you have to be very careful. If you start a tradition when your children are little, they never let you stop it.
Clearly didn't see that one coming.
I was 18 and my mother started placing gifts under the tree before I'd gone to bed.
What?
And I know, that's why I said, what are you doing? And she's like, you're 18 now. And I'm like, and?
Right. And what is the point here?
Yes. What is your point? You will stay up all night and wait for me to go to sleep before you put presents out. This is insane.
Okay, so your Santa traditions are the same as ours in that Santa comes on Christmas Eve after everyone's asleep.
Yes.
Okay, and then when everyone wakes up Christmas morning, that's when the Santa gifts are there.
Yes.
Are your Santa gifts wrapped or not?
Oh, yes, of course they're wrapped.
Okay, see, ours are not.
What?
That's how you know it's from Santa.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
gifts from mom and dad and grandma, grandpa, and everything else are wrapped under the tree.
Mhm.
Gifts from Santa magically show up on Christmas Eve or Christmas morning, no wrap. They have a label as to who they belong to. That's it.
I can see that. A lot of our movies show Santa delivering toys that are not wrapped with a tag around it. It never occurred to us that we do it differently. We did have special Santa paper because we've been wrapping presents, this whole season. Here's something for your teacher, something for your friend, putting presents under the tree.
Because if you waited until Christmas Eve to wrap everything, OMG, you'd never get it done.
Right. But we did wait till Christmas Eve to wrap Santa presents, and they had their own paper because obviously Santa's not using my paper.
Right.
It has to be special Santa paper.
That makes sense.
So that's how we did it. When the kids were little and there were lots of small presents, it seemed like, it's okay to say some of them are from mom and dad, some of them are from Santa. As they get older, as you pointed out, a lot of times it's just one gift. Like you got a laptop, you're not getting anything else.
You're not getting anything else.
Well, how do I make that from mom and dad or from Santa? And if it's from Santa, did mom and dad just not get you anything? Like that seems wrong. And so, or sometimes it was the big gift, like the laptop and then some auxiliary, very small gifts. There was some jealousy that sometimes Santa got to give you the big gift. Okay. If you're listening with small children and there are things that you don't want them to know about behind the scenes, now might be a good time to pause, come back to us later when you're alone. Now that they're older, I can make the big gift from Santa because they they know who actually funded and planted this idea in Santa's head.
I'm sure you may have been aware of this too. My children are really privileged. Our children are privileged.
Sure.
And I tried also to be mindful that the Santa gift wasn't the big thing. The big thing did come from us. I didn't want my kids to go to school and say, "Oh, my Santa brought me an iPad." Another child think, "Well, how come Santa didn't bring me an
That
iPad?"
is problematic when they're little.
Yeah.
Why isn't Santa equitable?
Right. Right. Oh.
Why do we need to give gifts to, the children on the tree that need help? Santa will do it.
Mm.
So that is a challenge. And I never flat out lied to my kids. I tried to be evasive.
I was too. I never lied. I was very evasive.
Yes. When they get older and start asking, well, what do you think?
Mhm.
Well, is it important that you know the truth? And I think a lot of times they would sit on that and think, no,
Right.
want to have a good thing going here. So what I don't know may not hurt me in this this context.
I remember when my oldest, because she's so analytical, oh my gosh, I don't quite remember how old she was, when she started really questioning Santa.
Mhm.
I did well, what do you think? She looked at me and she says, "If I don't believe in Santa, does that mean I don't get any gifts?" And I said, "I don't know." And she goes, "Then I guess I still believe." All right, good. Good on you.
I really think that's a good metaphor for a lot of things in our society right now.
Sure.
I'm going to pretend to go along with this because it just really makes my life easier. I used to belong to a wonderful church that was very progressive and liberal. I would have questions about these things that we did and ask my friend who happened to be the associate pastor. And she said, a lot of times the answer was tradition. And I love that she said that, like God doesn't care that we're doing this, but we do it because of tradition. I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And you know what? There is something still very powerful about doing it because it's tradition. Like you don't have to tell me that there's some mystical, theological reason that we do it. It's because it's a tradition in the church. And that actually, like you said, still brings those feelings of connectedness and togetherness. And it's okay to admit that we do it because of tradition. That's
Mhm.
fine.
Yeah.
And back to our superstitions episode,
Oh,
how
yeah.
much of it is belief in the superstition and how much of it is sort of can you call it a tradition?
Maybe. Anyway.
So traditions can be good and they can be bad.
And since you bring that up, because my oldest is a senior this year, there are lots of traditions around that time before they go off to college, before they leave the house.
Mhm.
It's interesting to think about the traditions that were important to me when I was her age that are not at all important to her. For example, I bought a leather jacket when I was a senior. It was just a cool thing that everybody in my school did. I had different patches to be sewn on the sleeves. They still sell these things.
Mhm.
My kid is like, "Why would I buy that? That's ridiculous. I don't want that. I have a class ring that I never wear." I think I gave it to my youngest because she thinks it's cool. But my senior daughter, she's like, "I'm not buying a ring. I don't need that. That's
She's
crazy."
very practical, though.
She
Your daughter's very
is.
practical. That was a tradition in your
It was
school
a
or
tradition
maybe
in
in
my
your
school.
state or who knows?
Definitely in my school. Who knows from where else that.
Well, we have to talk about then last year and lockdowns and
Oh,
schools being
yes.
virtual and nobody did their senior traditions, didn't even walk at graduation. I was a little bit like your daughter in that a lot of the senior traditions didn't make a lot of sense to me and weren't important. So I did the senior photos. I did have a class ring, but I don't know, announcements and walking and none of that seemed as important.
Yeah. And it's not. There's several kids who don't do it now.
I know, but the parents seemed a lot more concerned than the kids about the senior activities that were missed last year. To some of us, it's like, it's a global pandemic, guys. Like, sorry, you're not going to do this, but there are worse things.
I guess it seemed like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
And you're right. I knew a couple of kids from the class last year who did not give a crap about walking through the ceremony. And I just thought, oh, but their mom.
I know.
Though high school graduation, I think it used to be a bigger deal
Mhm.
than it is now.
Mhm. I wish we had a Jewish special guest today because I think
Oh,
they have a lot of traditions, especially I think they call themselves secular Jews. So they still observe a lot of the Jewish traditions, though it's not really faith-based for a lot of them. I mean, I have been envious of all these Jewish traditions because they seem to have a lot. It looks really cool. I wish I did more of them.
I hear you. I've got a few secular Jewish friends who I love their traditions.
Mhm.
We had some friends when the kids were little who the husband was Jewish, the wife was not. And in their mixed faith family, they would have a Chrismukkah party, which was, the Hanukkah Christmas mashup, basically. And it was so much fun. That party was so much fun. The food was always the same. They would do a brisket and kugel, everything around the oil.
I love it.
It was great. And all of the friends would come together and we would do a white elephant exchange. And I think I've told you about this. So it became tradition, and we did this for several years. There was this really ugly glass shoe-shaped soap dispenser, full, never been opened, that if you got the shoe in the gift exchange, that meant you had to bring the shoe back the next year. It went around and around. We had the shoe one year, and it was like, oh my God, we got the shoe. Yeah. Until whatever the last year that we participated in this, another family got the shoe and didn't bring it back. Like they actually used the soap and didn't bring it back, and we were all kind of heartbroken. What? There's no shoe.
And this is why I hate white elephant gift exchanges. I don't know. I have no use for an ugly shoe that I need to hold on to for a year, but I understand that was your tradition.
It was just
in
fun.
that group. I'm traumatized because in every white elephant, I've always gotten the gag gift when I felt like everyone else got nice gifts. And, I'm over it now, but it's like, why do we do this?
The good thing about this one was that every gift was bad. It really was truly awful.
Oh my gosh, that makes my heart hurt. But okay?
But it was funny. It was tradition.
I love it. New traditions.
Yes.
Some of us who have lived through a couple of decades realize
or more.
Yes. Realize that, sometimes change is okay.
Yeah. So that makes me think about podcasts we wish we'd made.
Oh.
Yeah. So a podcast I wish we'd made is one that you turned me on, Am I Normal by Mona Chalabi.
Oh.
Yeah. So Am I Normal? It's hosted by Mona Chalabi. It's part of TED Radio Collective. And it's a great podcast. And she is British. So I love listening to her speak. She's also Arabic, which is cool.
Yeah.
And she brings a lot of her culture into her podcast. The episode I was just listening to yesterday was talking about, is it normal for cousins to marry? And in her culture, it is. In the Middle East, it's very normal for cousins to marry. Nobody thinks a thing of it. Though in our society, it's like, oh, wait a second. And depending on which state you live in, can be illegal.
Right.
Florida, not so much, because
I think it's illegal for first cousins to marry in all 50 states, isn't it?
I don't think so. Listening to that episode, it's a tradition in her family or in her culture. Marriages can be arranged if it's between cousins or second cousins. You know the family. You've grown up with this person. You know what to expect. It's not like you meet a stranger and you're thrown into what could be or is expected to be a lifelong commitment. It was interesting. You should listen to that episode.
That does sound interesting, though not being from that culture, it also sounds alarming.
If I think about my cousins, yes.
Yes, but so Am I Normal? That is essentially what I think we originally wanted our podcast to be, which is this weird or is it just weirdly human? And my goal has always been to reach out to people and say, what you're going through is not an anomaly. It's actually quite normal. People with your DNA and your experiences would obviously feel this way. So no, it's not weird. It's weirdly human. If you do it and you're human, it's a weirdly human thing.
There you go. And there's our show. Yay.
So, do you have any other traditions that you wanted to talk about? How many kids have been devastated to come home when they're older and their parents have a new designer tree with all store-bought ornaments. And like, where's this super ugly ornament I made you when I was 6 years old with glitter glue? We don't like that.
No, we
You've
do not.
changed a thing.
Yeah. And it's interesting because my big, she thinks she's got, half her body already out the door. She's like, yeah, when next year when I'm away at college, I said, we are going to send these with you. These need to go to your tree. And she acted affronted. Like she was like, what, you don't want these?
Oh, you love these ugly ornaments.
I do.
You're
I
a
love
mother.
them. Of course I love them.
Sorry you didn't keep the pasta necklaces, guys, but the mice ate them.
Gross.
So, we had so many salt dough ornaments, and they're just
oh God, I know.
so ugly.
They're so ugly.
But tradition, so it's fine. And now my tree is, I'd say, a hybrid. I have,
nice.
yes, I definitely have some sentimental ugly ornaments on there, as well as some ornaments I purchased because I love them. It is definitely not a designer tree.
I'm probably never going to have a designer tree. Good or bad, that's just the way it's going to be. We have traveled a lot in our lifetime, and I'm so very thankful and I'm so privileged to have done so. From the very beginning, I started collecting little mementos from our travels, and I've kind of made those into ornaments at the beginning. And now every time we go somewhere, we get an ornament to remind us of the place we've been.
I love that.
That's something that we as a family really enjoy when we're unpacking the ornaments and we're putting them on the tree. It's like, oh, remember when we went to Turks and Caicos? Remember when we were in Muir Woods?
I
And
love that tradition.
It's really nice. That's my favorite tradition for holidays anyway.
But you still selected those ornaments and
Yes, I
would
did.
not have chosen, a salt dough ornament made by a 2-year-old.
No.
But I love my salt dough ornaments made by toddlers, by the way. They are just fantastic. Love them. But, you look at all these designer trees and all the catalogs this time of year and you're going like,
I have tree envy.
Do they not have children? Maybe not. And, if I was setting up a cute little Airbnb, I could throw in this cute tree and none of my sentimental ornaments mean anything, but I've got to have a tree with my sentimental ornaments on it.
I also wonder when I look at Front Gate and I look at these beautiful designer trees, I think some people have multiple trees in their house.
They do.
I
do
not. I have one. As you know, I can barely get myself together to do the one. Having multiple trees, not going to happen. But
yeah, seems like a lot of work.
Seems like a lot of work. I can see how having multiple trees, you could have a kid ornament tree.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a small one just with the...
They theme them.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Maybe that's what people do.
Some of them do for sure. And I could see having like a smaller, satellite tree maybe in the kitchen with just certain ornaments on it.
Right. Where did we put these things? I don't know. That's another reason why I don't have them. I have to think about where to put it.
And who's going to have multiple real trees this year when there's a tree shortage? And they're also expensive.
Surely they don't have multiple real trees. Surely they have maybe one real tree and multiple smaller artificial.
Oh, that's a huge deal too.
Oh, yes.
In my first marriage, I came from a fake tree home and he came from a real tree home. Every year, it was difficult to compromise on that one.
I'm sure.
I now lean real tree. I personally just don't like storing the artificial trees. I had a really bad experience with a pre-lit tree that was never pre-lit for me. And
Oh, that's annoying.
It is. But people are passionate about real trees versus fake trees.
I love it that you brought that up because my husband and I both came from real tree families.
Oh, thank God.
In Missouri where we grew up, I think that's very common that most people have a real tree, or at least did when we were there. I don't know. But we both came from real tree families, and we were adamant in our life together that we would have only real trees until our child came along, our biological child came along, and then we wondered why she was having pneumonia and bronchitis every Christmas. And I remember taking her to the allergist, and one of the first things he says, "Do you have a tree in your house?" And I was like, "Well, yes." And he's like, "What are you doing? Are you crazy? Get that tree out of your house right now."
Oh, wow.
And he berated me, and I'm like, "Oh shit, you're right." Ugh. And as soon as we lost the real tree, she hasn't had a problem since.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, it was other things too, but it definitely helped. So yeah, we've been artificial tree since then. And now I kind of like it because I don't have needles all over the floor. My pre-lit tree has been pre-lit. It's marvelous. And I can have white lights, or I can have colored lights, or I can do blinky lights.
And it's
I've got
the
choices.
same tree every year, so
Yep.
you know the layout. And because with a real tree, some years they're fatter and have more branches, and some years they're thinner, and
They're real trees.
they're real trees, and they're all different. And
all
I've
different.
gotten trees and thought, wow, I don't have near as many ornaments as I thought I did, and had
Yeah.
to mad rush for some candy canes and pine cones for filler.
And I've lost ornaments
Yeah.
on, the real tree, because you miss taking it off, and then the tree ends up going to the, well, back in Missouri, we used to have it taken to the lake. They would drop them in the lake for fish habitat.
Oh.
And I go, all right, well, the fish got that ornament.
Wouldn't they change the pH? I don't know. That's
I don't know.
a different show. If you put enough Christmas trees in a lake, it seems like it would make
Sure.
it very acidic. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm sure the Missouri wildlife people know what they're doing.
Know what
I
they're
don't
doing.
know.
Yeah.
We'd like to think that.
We'll just pretend that that's okay.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and I was reading that from an environmental perspective, Christmas trees are farmed.
Yes.
And they are actually good for the environment. Fake trees don't actually last forever. Usually people tend to replace them on average every 10 years, and they're actually less good for the environment
I'm sure.
than a real tree.
I'm sure.
So there's that too. I had fond childhood memories of artificial trees when I was little. We had one that I've never found one just like it. And if I did, for nostalgia reasons, I would probably buy it. But it had the long pine needles on it, but it was sort of hollow on the inside. So picture like an upside down cone that's hollow on the inside, and all of the leaves are on the outside. So I could actually lay under the tree. I would curl up around the tree and look up.
Oh, wow.
I would look up at the lights from inside the tree, if this made sense. This is a very strong childhood memory for me. Yeah, I loved that tree, but other artificial trees, not so much. Tradition.
That is cool.
Yes. So, and I did ask my son, his partner is Jewish, and I asked them if they'd put up their Hanukkah tree yet. They just have a menorah up. I don't know. It's probably going through a lot of new traditions.
That's interesting to think about. So again, my friends, they had the menorah and they had a Christmas tree. They did both things.
Mm-hmm. And I see that often. I also love the idea, though, of a Hanukkah tree. It's it's the Christmas tree with Hanukkah ornaments on it.
Yeah.
I don't put up a tree for religious reasons. It's cultural and tradition and nostalgia and all of these things.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun. I'm with you. I don't put up a tree for any religious reason, but it's fun to do,
especially if you have kids.
But I think once my children have grown and gone, I will still put up a tree because I like it.
That's a good reason.
Yeah, tradition. All right. Was there anything else you want to talk
about? Stacey Abrams is running for governor.
Yes, she is.
Vote for Stacey.
Go, Stacey.
How do we end the show traditionally?
Well, usually
I think we say that's a wrap, and
I
then
think we just
goodbye.
say that's a wrap, and then goodbye, which we totally can do.
We clearly are out of things to say, so maybe we should do that.
All right. Sounds good. This has been another episode of Weirdly Human. Thanks so much, weirdos. We appreciate your listening, and we'll be back again next time. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Tradition.
That's a cool tradition.
Tradition. So that is from Fiddler on the Roof, where they talk about some of their Jewish traditions, by the way.